Vaping is certainly a concern for a lot of parents, especially parents of adolescents and teens.
Dr. Laura Saunders from the Institute of Living in Hartford is joining us now to talk more about it. Dr. Laura Saunders, before we begin, I'm very excited because my clinical psychologist is seeing me in person today for the first time since the pandemic began. I'm so excited to see him in person.
Hello, friends. Happy Wednesday. And therapy is a beautiful thing, Scott.
Oh, I can't wait.
Face to face.
Face to face.
Face to face.
All right, so you're talking about vaping, and we think, okay, you're a psychologist, what is vaping? But there's definitely a link between some negative behaviors and vaping, right?
Yeah, so I get real concerned. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, right? School's out, kids have more free time. I want them to get outside and socialize. All those are good things. But sometimes they get involved in some negative activities. And vaping is a concern for parents. It's, there's lots of different names, e-cigs, hookahs, vape pens, vape, but it's pretty much all the same thing. And unfortunately, a lot of the marketing is towards younger folks because they have, fruit flavors and things that make you think it's okay, but it is addictive and it has nicotine in it. And it's very dangerous for adolescents. It's dangerous for everyone, but it's especially dangerous for preteens and adolescents.
Yeah, they said 99% of the vaping products have some sort of nicotine in it.
Right.
And even
like
says
smoking,
it
right?
has no nicotine, it likely does have nicotine. And nicotine is highly addictive. For a long time, people used to say, oh, marijuana is a gateway drug. In my clinical experience, nicotine and smoking is the true gateway because it's the first experience as a teen or as a young adult where you take in a substance and it alters your mood. So I think nicotine's really serious. We know there's lots of negative effects, and it really has a negative effect on the developing adolescent brain.
We'll talk about that because that's something I try to tell my kids, never even try this. Nicotine is so addictive and your brain is still growing. So how do we explain to parents and teens how bad this is?
So, I really focus on the addictive element. I've never been a smoker myself, but I understand from people that have smoked that when you take in, nicotine, it alters your mood. It has a mood altering aspect to it. But in developing brains, we don't need to do things that alter mood. Young people need to learn how to manage their moods on their own, right? Through coping skills, through activities, through talking, and so using a substance to alter your mood is creating a really bad pathway for young people.
How do you see your kid, or you think you sense your kids vaping or smoking? How do you start that conversation without coming across as the big bad bear?
So, my trick is I always ask about friends, right? I don't say, are you vaping? I say, are any of your friends vaping? Like, if any of your friends doing this kind of stuff, because they're more likely to talk about something. But so in a lot of those situations, I assume if their friends are doing it, they're doing it too. So that's often how I get in the back door. But having really direct conversations about the danger. The other thing is to be a role model, right? So if you're a cigarette smoker, or if you're, a smoker, it's going to come off as disingenuous to tell your kids not to smoke and not to do anything. So really, focus on being a good role model. Smokefree.gov has resources on tips that you can share with your kids, but you really need to have some pretty direct conversations and kind of find out what they're doing in their leisure time.
What if you establish that your child is vaping? Is the big bad bear is, I think, what a lot of parents would do. You're grounded, you're this, you're that. But what, from your perspective, what's effective to make them stop?
So I like to go after sort of the science perspective. Let's look at what vaping really does to you. The hard part about young people and cigarettes is they say, oh, it won't affect me, or it won't affect me for 30 or 40 years. Well, vaping actually has other chemicals in it. So I would go after the science. Let's watch a video about what happens when you're vaping and what actually happens to your lungs. There was an issue about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, about some concern that adolescents who were vaping got like a lung disease. So there really is a lot of very serious consequences. So I'd go at, grounding might be one thing, but let's do education. Let's go after the science route. Make them watch a video on what happens to your lungs when you're vaping.
Yeah, especially those cigarette ads on television. They're really very powerful. And I'm sure, even those are hopefully making some headway. I mean, you see these people and how their faces and bodies have just deteriorated.
Yeah, it's very sad. And I understand, we've been through a global pandemic. People are looking for a little quick fix, but get outside and go for a walk or a run or a bike ride. Stay away from vaping and e-cigarettes.
Absolutely. Some good advice there. And I think it's, even if they don't know that it's altering their mood, it's probably the issue that if they have friends doing it, they're trying to fit in. So that's a whole other thing.
Right.
But
there's always a huge peer element in these kinds of activities. So that's why I usually ask questions about their friends, because that's how you get better information than confronting them directly, because then you just get resistance. But yeah, doing the best you can to monitor what's going on. I know these are not always easy times, but the more we have direct conversations and have open conversations with our kids, the hope is that they will then come to you and kind of tell you what's going on.
So I guess we can close this segment by saying no ifs, ands, or buts, Dr. Laura.
Scott, you got me on that one. You got me. So yes, absolutely. No ifs, ands, or buts, please. And have a safe and happy holiday weekend.
You too.
thank you, Dr.
appreciate
Laura.
it.
You too.